Imagine being a fan of a club that spent 34 consecutive years in English football's top division. A founding member of the Premier League, a club that refused to die, surviving relegation battles time and time again when everyone expected them to fall. That was Coventry City. That was their identity. And then everything collapsed. From the Premier League to the Championship, from the Championship to League One, from League One to League Two for the first time in nearly 6 decades. A generation of fans grew up never seeing top-flight football. Hope didn't just fade, it disappeared. 25 years, a quarter of a century of waiting, of pain, of wondering if Coventry City would ever come back. And then in April 2026, everything changed. The story of how it happened is one of the great survival tales in modern English football. And at the centre of it is a manager who arrived when nobody wanted him with everything to prove. His name is Frank Lampard, and this is how he created this miracle. Welcome to Mega Football. Let's get started. To understand what this promotion means, you have to understand where Coventry City have been. Not just the football, but the chaos, the humiliation, the institutional dysfunction that turned one of English football's most storied clubs into a cautionary tale that lasted a quarter of a century. It began on the penultimate day of the 2000 to 2001 Premier League season. Coventry City travelled to Aston Villa. They were 34 years into an unbroken top-flight run. They led 2-0 at Villa Park. They needed something from the game to stay up. What they got was a 3-2 defeat, relegated by their bitter rivals with a game to spare. The following 11 seasons in the second tier produced nothing. Coventry finished in the top half of the Championship just 3 times across that entire period. Meanwhile, the financial problems that had been building quietly in the background began to surface. In 2005, the club left its home of 106 years at Highfield Road and moved into the newly built Ricoh Arena. The underlying debt was something else entirely. The club was forced to sell its share of the arena to repay creditors, and by 2007 they were on the brink of administration. In 2012, after 48 years away from the third tier, Coventry City were relegated to League One. What followed was arguably the most chaotic period in the history of any EFL club in the modern era. A dispute with the Ricoh Arena's owners in 2013 left Coventry without a ground entirely. The solution? Ground share with Northampton Town, a club playing its home games at another stadium, 70 miles round trip from the city it represented. Supporters were incensed, marches were organised, the situation was raised in Parliament. The club managed to return to the Ricoh eventually, but the damage had been done to the finances, to the fan base, to the identity of the club itself. And then came the most humbling moment of all, the 2016-17 season. Mark Robins, making his first return to the club he had managed briefly years before, could not prevent Coventry from being relegated to League Two. The first time the Sky Blues had played at that level since 1959. The surreal footnote to that season, they lifted the EFL trophy at Wembley, beating Oxford United 2-1 in front of more than 40,000 Coventry fans who had turned out in defiance of everything that was happening to their club. The stadium was full, the scarves were waving, and the club was dropping to the 4th tier of English football. 2 realities existing at the same time, both equally true. Robins would prove to be the architect of the recovery. He got Coventry out of League Two at the first attempt, winning promotion through the playoffs in 2018. He stabilised them in League One. He then won promotion again in 2020, delivering it in the most Coventry City way imaginable. The club were top of the table when the pandemic struck with 12 games left, and promotion was only confirmed when the EFL eventually awarded it automatically. When Doug King, a local businessman and Coventry fan, completed his takeover of the club in 2023, it felt like the first genuinely hopeful moment in 2 decades. Sisu Capital were gone, a local owner was in, and on the pitch, Robins had built something real. In 2023, Coventry City reached the Championship playoff final at Wembley. They lost to Luton Town on penalties, but they were close. They were genuinely, tangibly close. Then came 2023 to 24, and it very nearly broke them again. In the summer, Coventry lost Victor Gyökeres and Gustavo Hamer with no adequate replacement for what they brought. Then came the FA Cup semi-final at Wembley against Manchester United. Coventry were 3 goals down. They fought back. A Victor Torp goal appeared to have won it in extra time, only for Haji Wright to be adjudged offside by the tiniest margin imaginable. Penalties, and Manchester United won. The line became a meme. The pain was real. The 2024-25 season started badly. Results were poor. The early momentum from the King era had stalled, and the pressure on Robins became unsustainable for the boardroom, even if not for the fan base. In November, Mark Robins was sacked. The reaction from supporters told you everything about the kind of manager he had been. The outpouring of grief was genuine, raw, and angry. Coventry City was 17th in the championship table, 2 points above the relegation zone, and the club was about to appoint a new manager who almost nobody in the city wanted. The name, when it came, landed awkwardly: Frank Lampard. As a manager, a mixed record that the critics had used to build a very specific narrative. He took Derby County to the playoff final in 2019, losing to Aston Villa. He was then appointed Chelsea manager, where in his debut season he guided a squad under a transfer embargo to a Champions League place. Then came a dip in form, and he was sacked in January 2021. A caretaker spell at Everton followed, and then came a second stint at Chelsea as an interim: 9 games, 8 defeats, and the end. 18 months out of football, questions without answers. A managerial career that people were beginning to describe in the past tense. And now, Coventry City, 17th in the Championship. A fan base still mourning the man who had just been let go. The city wasn't convinced, and Lampard knew it. He has spoken about that moment, arriving at a club in a crisis he hadn't created, trying to win over a dressing room, working to earn the trust of fans who felt the appointment was an insult to the man he was replacing. What drove him, by his own account, was not money and not comfort. It was the need to prove something. After Chelsea, after Everton, after 18 months staring at the ceiling, he needed this to work. And the way he went about it told you something about how he had evolved as a manager. He spoke about the lessons absorbed from his playing years working under Jose Mourinho, who was very hands-on, strong tactically, and in managing the group. Lampard described himself as sitting somewhere in the middle. At Coventry, he didn't arrive with a rigid system and demand the squad adapt to it. He was pragmatic in his shape, willing to use a 3 or a 4 depending on the opponent, making decisions based on what each specific game required rather than what looked good on a whiteboard. For a man with his profile, with his history as an elite player, that kind of flexibility was genuinely refreshing to people inside the game. What happened over the following 5 months was the first proof of concept. Coventry's form under Lampard in the second half of that 2024-25 season was remarkable. They climbed the table steadily, relentlessly, picking up results that nobody expected from a squad that had been written off as a relegation battler. By the end of the campaign, they had not just saved themselves, they had reached the Championship playoffs. A run that placed their points per game ratio among the best in the division for that half of the season. And then came the playoff semi-final against Sunderland. Coventry gave everything across 2 legs, but a last-minute header from Dan Ballard in the second leg ended the dream. It was a defeat, but it was also a signal. The work was real, the trajectory was real, and the summer that followed mattered more than anyone outside the club fully grasped. The 2025-26 championship season began, and Coventry City were not a team that was supposed to be here. They had no parachute payments, they had no Premier League infrastructure, they had a manager who was still considered, by many, an unproven gamble, and they went unbeaten in their first 12 games of the season. By early October, they were top of the championship table, and with the exception of a single week, they would not leave it again. Not in November when others went on runs, not in February when the fixture congestion and injuries begin to expose every squad in the league. Not even during the mid-season dip that every honest observer acknowledged when the pressure of expectation began to weigh and results wobbled. They came through it. Every time the question was asked, Lampard's Coventry found the answer. The numbers across the full campaign are extraordinary in context. Among a division with parachute-funded clubs carrying Premier League wage structures, with relegated giants circling the top positions, Coventry led. They earned it across 43 games, which is exactly how it's supposed to work in the most physically and mentally demanding league in the world. And while the football was being played, something even more significant happened at boardroom level. Coventry City Football Club bought the CBS Arena. For the first time since leaving Highfield Road in 2005, after 2 decades of ground shares, disputes, court battles, and borrowed stadiums, Coventry City owned their own home. This was something that a league position alone could never have given them. Identity, permanence, a foundation. The promotion race ended the only way it deserved to. Not through a playoff final, not through penalties or a last-minute heartbreak. Coventry City earned automatic promotion across 43 games, with 3 matches still to play, confirmed by a Bobby Thomas header at Ewood Park, while 7,000 Sky Blue supporters lost their minds in the away end. The final whistle came, and the weight of 25 years lifted all at once. 3 relegations, 15 permanent managers, 4 different grounds, and now, finally, the Premier League. The scenes at Ewood Park told a story that no statistics can fully capture. Supporters in disbelief, grown men and women crying in the away end, players on the pitch collapsing into each other, not quite able to process what they had done. Sky Sports editor Simeon Golem, who covered this story from the beginning of the Lampard era, perhaps said it best. Taking over a club from one of the most popular and successful managers in their history, who was sacked amid a tidal wave of fury from fans to whom he was a hero, Lampard was not a well-received appointment. It was time to prove himself again, and he has done just that. It's worth letting that sit for a moment. Lampard had won the Premier League, had managed Chelsea, had 106 England caps. He did not need to come to a championship club in 17th place, rebuilding after years of institutional chaos, to prove anything to anyone. And yet that was exactly what drove him. The need to do it, on his terms, without a safety net. After 9,113 days, Coventry City are back into the Premier League. In those days, Coventry City were homeless in their own city. They were in administration, they were in League Two, they changed ownership twice, they lost a playoff final on penalties, they lost an FA Cup semi-final, they were still there in the Championship when the whole country had long since moved on and talked about other things. And then Frank Lampard walked into a dressing room where he wasn't wanted, into a club that was staring at relegation, and did something that people inside English football are going to be talking about for years. He made them believe they could win, and when they believed it, they did it. 3 games to spare. Automatic promotion, and soon champions of the Championship. The famous Sky Blue shirts back in the Premier League, where a founding member of the competition always belonged. This is not a football story. It is a story about what happens when a city refuses to let its club disappear, and what happens when the right man arrives at exactly the right time. This is Coventry City. This is Frank Lampard. And this is what a miracle looks like. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Mega Football, and we'll see you next week.